moviegoers have become highly adept at sniffing out a troubled project. Often, the writing is firmly on the wall for months, even years before a movie releases, that it's going to be doomed. Either to critical or commercial failure, if not both. But it's also fair to say that nobody can predict the future, and it's always possible for an at-risk project to surprise us all. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie for What Culture, and these are 10 doomed upcoming movies that could be great. Want to stay safe online and save big? Get up to 76% off a 2-year NordVPN plan, plus 4 months free and up to a $50 Amazon gift card. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description and it's all yours. Number 10, Bond 26. There was understandably much doom and gloom when Amazon announced that they'd acquired the James Bond franchise from custodians Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, given their stated desire to expand the property into a larger cinematic universe with spin-offs, TV shows, and so on. But Amazon certainly persuaded many that they were taking the next big screen chapter of the franchise seriously when they recently announced that the legendary Denis Villeneuve will be directing the currently untitled 26th Bond film. Villeneuve is one of the fandom's top-tier dream picks, probably second only to Christopher Nolan, and so to see him bring his astonishing filmmaking to the world of 007 is tremendously exciting, no matter how little we know about the new movie at this point. Though Villeneuve is currently busy shooting Doom Part 3, meaning that Bond 26 likely won't release until 2028 at the very earliest, hiring him to direct was a pure masterstroke on Amazon's part, to turn the tide of public opinion on both the film and their wider acquisition of the brand. Number 9, Tron Aries. One of the biggest question mark projects due to release later this year is Tron Aries, the third big screen entry into a franchise that's honestly struggled to sustain mainstream interest. As celebrated as it was for its visuals and Daft Punk's score, 2010's Tron Legacy underperformed at the box office against a colossal budget, enough that for many years it seemed like Tron 3 would never actually happen. But even though it's been shot and will release this October, there are some obvious red flags. First and foremost, 15 years have passed since the last film, and Tron nostalgia isn't exactly at an all-time high. Nor does the IP feel even remotely relevant to younger audiences, both of which will limit its box office potential. Elsewhere, there's the iffy casting of Jared Leto as villain Ares, a choice which many groaned at the moment it happened. Then there's the fact that neither Tron Legacy director Joseph Kosinski nor composers Daft Punk are back for this one, and the only cast member expected to return is Jeff Bridges. But on the other hand, the first teaser trailer looks pretty damn spectacular. Director Joachim Ronning is hardly a slouch, and Daft Punk have received a best-case scenario replacement in 9 Inch Nails. Ares likely won't replicate the iconic quality of Legacy, but there's also every possibility that it's a rock-solid blockbuster and far from the letdown that many fans are expecting. Number 8, Saw 11. Considering the critical and commercial success of Saw X in 2023, producing a follow-up should have been a slam dunk, and indeed Saw 11 was originally slated to release in September 2024. The film ended up being delayed a year to September 2025, though by early 2025 it was reported that Saw 11 had been cancelled due to a disagreement between producers. Though Saw 11 was always going to happen eventually, putting the sequel into limbo made it likely that the 11th film would ultimately be another attempt at a reboot, given that Tobin Bell turns 83 years old this summer. However, the sequel was resurrected back in June when Blumhouse bought Twisted Pictures' stake in the franchise. And if we know anything, it's that Blumhouse knows how to get a movie made fast. Given that franchise veterans Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunstan already had a draft of the Saw 11 script completed before it all fell apart, it's not inconceivable that a direct sequel to Saw X could end up shooting by late 2025 or early 2026, assuming that Bell is still healthy enough to play Jigsaw. But in the very least, it feels like the wheels of the franchise are turning once again. Number 7, The Batman Part 2. There's been enormous frustration among the Batman fanbase over how long it's taken for filmmaker Matt Reeves to complete the script for the sequel, The Batman Part 2. After all, The Batman was released in March 2022, and its follow-up was originally slated to drop in October 2025. Yet due to both Hollywood strike action and Reeves' slow-going approach with perfecting the script, it ended up being delayed to October 2027. Couple all this with the awkwardness of how the film will slot into James Gunn's recently kickstarted uncharted DC universe, and to many it seems like the sequel is destined to never actually happen. But Reeves finally turned in the script back in June, with shooting reportedly primed to begin this coming January. While this is undeniably a much longer wait for The Batman Part 2 than any fan of the original wanted, considering Reeves' track record, it's easy enough to give him the benefit of the doubt here. As the kids say these days, let him cook. Number 6. Spinal Tap 2: The End Continues. A sequel to legendary music mockumentary This Is Spinal Tap was officially confirmed in 2022, though the announcement was met with considerable skepticism given both how much time has passed since the 1984 original and also the rather lackluster recent track record of director Rob Reiner. It's been easy to dismiss this one as just another belated comedy sequel that should have gotten made decades earlier, and it doesn't help that we're less than 2 months away from release without a full trailer. Is this one being sent out to die? It sure does feel like it. But there is some cause for cautious optimism, given that original leads Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer are all back. And they're also co-writing the film with Reiner as they did the original. Sure, it's possible that Spinal Tap 2 ends up feeling like a woefully out-of-touch relic. But if it can satirize how the music industry has changed over the last 40 years while staying true to the central characters, it could also be a rare decades-later comedy sequel that actually works. Fingers crossed. Number 5. The Social Network Part 2. The Social Network is one of the greatest films of the 2010s, if not ever, though many turned their noses up at a recently announced sequel, considering that original director David Fincher wasn't set to return. Instead, writer Aaron Sorkin will also serve as director on The Social Network Part 2, an announcement which caused much interest in the sequel to dry up, given how Fincher's directorial approach was pivotal to the first film's success. But it also feels a little unkind to Sorkin to dismiss his own filmmaking chops quite so swiftly. Sure, he's no Fincher. Who is? But Molly's Game and The Trial of the Chicago 7 were both enthusiastically received by critics, so he's absolutely capable of directing a quality follow-up to The Social Network. More to the point, Sorkin is one hell of a writer, and accepting how much Facebook has changed since the original film's 2010 release, he certainly won't be left scrambling to come up with a compelling hook for the sequel. There are still many question marks surrounding the project, which will apparently focus on Facebook whistleblower Frances Haugen, but to write it off due to Fincher's non-involvement feels excessively reactionary. It would be amazing to have him on board, but it can still be great without him. Number 4. The Way of the Wind. The Way of the Wind is the new drama from Terrence Malick, a filmmaker who has always taken a painstaking approach to editing his films, with the process often lasting several years after shooting has wrapped. But even for Malick's standards, the prolonged post-production process of his biblical epic has been extreme, given that shooting wrapped all the way back in late 2019. Cast member Matija Kasavitz even claimed that Malick shot roughly 3,000 hours of footage for the film, which chronicles several episodes in the life of Jesus Christ. And while Malick evidently has his process, the fact that he's spent the better part of 6 years figuring this one out is hard not to worry about. As of this past April, reports claimed that The Way of the Wind was still nowhere near finished. But on the flip side, Malick's prolonged approach has bore ripe fruit in the past, with The Thin Red Line, The Tree of Life, Voyage of Time, and A Hidden Life all spending several years in post before releasing to strong reviews. Though 6 years is a lot even for Malick, considering the ambition of the project and the stupid good cast, including Matthias Schoenaerts, Mark Rylance, and Ben Kingsley, it's best to trust the director to his eccentric process. You can't rush the man, and that's fine. Number 3. Kung Fury 2. Kung Fury 2 is a sequel to the 2015 short film Kung Fury, a glorious homage to 1980s cop and martial arts films, which became something of a viral hit for filmmaker David Sandberg. Its success led to a feature film follow-up, which wrapped shooting in September 2019. And yet Kung Fury 2 still hasn't released, reportedly due to a lawsuit involving the film's investors, leaving it in limbo as fans question whether it will ever actually come out. And more to the point, was it possible that Sandberg simply laid a giant goose egg with the movie and it failed to live up to the original short? Well, we got some compelling evidence to the contrary back in May when a 10-minute sizzle reel of the film was leaked online in what was quite possibly a controlled leak in an attempt to rustle up interest in the movie, given that it still hasn't actually been taken down. The sizzle reel makes Kung Fury 2 look absolutely wild, with fun performances from the likes of Michael Fassbender, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and even David Hasselhoff, and caused enough of a stir online that maybe, just maybe, it'll actually help the film finally get released. In the very least, it's looking very fun and polished, and far away from the potential disaster some were whispering about. Number 2, a big, bold, beautiful journey. Word on the street for the new romantic fantasy film A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey is all over the map, with reports claiming that the Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell starring drama has had 4 rounds of test screenings, each of which has drawn wildly polarised responses. It certainly points to a film that's going to be anything but a soaring crowd pleaser then, and while it may not be the awards player many were hoping for, or a storming box office success, that doesn't mean it will be a bad movie. The recently dropped first trailer at least suggests a visually stunning, ambitious and well-acted film, and considering the track record of director Kogonada, it's reasonable to expect a film that's at least interesting, even if it isn't a total home run. It's also worth keeping in mind that Sony recently moved its release date from May to the more awards-friendly date of September, which could well suggest that they're more optimistic about its awards chances than we've been led to believe. Number 1, Street Fighter. Considering that the 2 live-action Street Fighter movies to date are both duds, it's reasonable to approach this new take with a healthy dose of skepticism, especially given how development has gone so far. For one, rising horror filmmakers Danny and Michael Philippou quit the project last year, with the decidedly less intriguing Kito Sakurai being drafted in to replace them, and earlier this year Sony pulled the film from their release calendar in the midst of development. Shooting is nevertheless reportedly set to begin in August, despite the fact that no writer has been officially announced for the project, and it's still unclear if Sony will be distributing. It certainly suggests a chaotic pre-production process that doesn't set the most promising tone for shooting then. But Street Fighter is all about its characters, and if nothing else, this movie has one of the most intriguingly chaotic casts of any upcoming movie, which could very well be its saving grace. Where to begin? Well, we've got Andrew Koji, Noah Centineo, Roman Reigns, Jason Momoa, Kalina Liang, David Dastmalchian, Cody Rhodes, 50 Cent, Orville Peck, Hiroki Goto, and Vidyut Jamval. That's one hell of a colourful, unhinged cast, and to see all of these larger-than-life personalities throwing down in a single action-centric movie should be a ton of fun. Nobody needs a great story out of a Street Fighter movie, but if the action rocks, it'll easily be the best big-screen adaptation to date. So here's hoping.